What's going on, ballers? It's Jack here, back for another NBA draft profile. Taking a look at Deandre Ayton today, the big superstar, one and done freshman from Arizona. And to me, he's a guy who he's solidified himself as a top 3 prospect, but to me there are still some question marks to his game. Now, let me be very clear. I think Deandre Ayton has the highest ceiling in this class, and I don't know, frankly, how close it is. But he's not the number 1 player on my board. Now, with Deandre Ayton, you're looking at a guy who, at over 7 feet tall, 7'5" wingspan, around 260 pounds, he has the prototypical size and the size and length that you look for at the center position. On top of that, he's an extremely fluid athlete who moves incredibly well, especially for someone his size, but he has great body control and he's able to get around defenders and really use his body and his quickness that I think is a bit surprising to players when they play him. They're not expecting him to be as quick as he is. And, offensively is where he really shines. He averaged over 20 points this past season, just about 11 rebounds, 1.5 assists, but he shot really well. 61%. He even hit 34% from the three-point line and 73%, a very encouraging number from the charity stripe. So promising signs in terms of his shooting numbers. And, as a low post scorer, though, I thought that's where Ayton really shined. And that's despite the fact he was playing out position for most of the season at the 4 spot, with Ristich still there at the 5. And he really dominated smaller defenders in the post, scoring at an 89 percentile rate, which is one of the top marks in the country. And on top of that, as I said, the jumper looks smooth. He's very, very fluid with his catch and release jumper. Really knocks him down from that mid-range area and expanding to the three-point line. Not quite there yet with consistency, but that mid-range area, a few feet in front of that college three-point line, he was very comfortable with his catch and shoot from that spot. Defensively, he has the size. He did average 2 shot blocks a game. So, there's definitely concerns with him, and we'll get into that in a bit. But there is the potential for him to be a two-way impact player. And with his rebounding ability, over 11 a game, he has the rebounding, the scoring. So if he can add in the defense, then, you're really looking at a potential superstar player, which is why, I said he has the highest ceiling in the draft. Now, also, I did say there are a few questions. Defensively is the first one for me. Granted, he had to play out of position at the 4 spot, but to me, and this was a question people had with Ben Simmons coming out, and we sure know how Ben Simmons has quieted those doubts on him on the defensive end. But Ayton defensively, I don't want to say he looked disinterested, but at times he just didn't seem to have the same motor, the same resolve that he did on the offensive end to really make an impact and make a play. And, that is something that we're going to have to see. Does he develop in his first couple of years? Because certainly there are players who do. I just think that it's harder to develop that skill than necessarily adding something to your offensive game, because it's more of a mentality than a skill. And I haven't seen that mentality from Ayton yet. Now, I very well could be wrong. We could see that, especially if he gets to play the 5 position. He may take it a little more upon himself to be that rim protector, that presence at the back of the defense. But generally, guys don't really transition into being a defender, taking that defensive mindset, unless they have to. And I don't know if Ayton will have to, because his offensive game will be good enough. And I see him, coming in immediately and being able to score at the NBA level. And, there's lots of comparisons to Karl Anthony Towns, and I do see them. You have a guy who's very nimble, may not be the most vertically explosive player, may not be the best athlete, but, he has great body control and balance. and is able to get around his player and is smooth. And I think that aspect of the comparison is very valid and makes a lot of sense. Now, where do I see Ayton going in the draft? Like I said, this guy's a top 3 prospect, despite maybe the defensive concerns. He's also not a great playmaker, 1.5 assists a game. But that could improve a little bit, I think, if he gets to play out of the post a little bit more at the NBA level, although I just don't see him ever becoming a, Marc Gasol type passer. So I see him as a guy going in the top 3 who could go to Phoenix, Dallas. Honestly, it almost doesn't matter with Ayton because of his position at the center spot. There's just not too many centers who can do what he does, especially with the teams at the top of the lottery. And he's going to come in right away. I see him as a 15 points per game, maybe even more, honestly, and come and make an impact on the offensive end. The defense is where I think we'll have to see where his ceiling ends up. That's going to impact his ceiling, I think, ultimately. But this is a guy who has the highest ceiling in the draft, one of the top players, my number 2 guy on my big board, and a player who I do think has a chance to be an all-star in the years to come. But guys, let me know what you think about Deandre Ayton. What do you think about this video, and what other prospects do you want to see me profile? That's it for this one, guys. I'm out. Peace.